Running Aces Casino and Racetrack is the Twin Cities' premier choice for exciting entertainment, 24/7 gaming and dining, monthly comedy shows, and $1 blackjack with no commission or ante, making it the most player-friendly casino around. Trout Air Tavern at Running Aces offers Minnesota-inspired handcrafted dishes with locally sourced ingredients and the trout that made the area famous. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, 25 minutes north of downtown. Visit runaces.com. Running Aces, your night out is waiting.
This is information not being reported by anyone else. You want the scoop? Here it is with Darren Doogie Wolfson.
This week brings us the great Minnesota get-together and a partial one. I can promise that some Minnesotans will listen to this podcast. We actually have listeners spanning the globe. I'm forever grateful for those of you who choose to listen to this particular podcast when you have so many podcast options, more than ever right now. This is Scoop Podcast episode 168. We'll get to Twins general manager Thad Levine, mostly on Stephen Gonsalves' Major League debut from Monday night. We'll catch up with Stephen's parents. We'll start with Vikings Notes after I thank the sponsors of this Scoop Podcast, Blue Chew, BlueChew.com, and Vivid Seats. I'll tell you a little bit about Blue Chew right now, tell you about Vivid Seats after Vikings Notes or sometime later in the podcast. Blue Chew and BlueChew.com. Guys, let's talk about sex. Let's talk about good sex. Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. BlueChew.com. That's blue like the color blue. BlueChew.com brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach. And since they are chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. So no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. They are made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they are cheaper than a pharmacy. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use the special promo code SCOOP. Just pay $5 shipping. Again, visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use the special promo code SCOOP. Again, that's BlueChew.com, B-L-U-E, BlueChew.com. Use the promo code SCOOP. It is Blue Chew. It is BlueChew.com. All right, let's start with Vikings Notes. The most popular question I've gotten on social media the last 48 hours is this: will the Vikings pursue free agent safety George Iloka? The Bengals surprisingly let him go on Sunday. Yes, it is true. The Vikings did have interest in him a couple years ago before he re-signed with the Bengals. The Vikings actually didn't get real far down the road then, but they certainly registered interest. As of Tuesday morning, the Vikings have not registered any interest in Iloka. Here's a big reason why. The Vikings love Andrew Sendejo. He might not be a fan favorite. I'm not quite sure every fan realizes that he's a pretty good player. Maybe not an all-pro, anything like that, but Andrew Sendejo is a good player. But internally at TCO Performance Center, the Vikings have a very healthy opinion of Sendejo. Iloka isn't looking to come in here and be a backup. Also, the Vikings actually like Jaron Kearse. But Sendejo is the starter. So look for Iloka to end up elsewhere. Menelik Watson is another offensive lineman that is available now. The Broncos let him go. They gave him big money, just a year ago, former Oakland Raider. So far, the Vikings have not registered interest in Menelik. He is recovering from a chest injury. I am told by somebody close to Menelik that he should be good to go in the next couple weeks. So he will sign with somebody. We'll wait and see if the Vikings register interest. But as of Tuesday morning, the Vikings had not registered any interest in Watson. The Vikings continue to talk internally about potential trade targets and or waiver claims. Michael Schofield of the LA Chargers is a name that has come up internally. And keep in mind, well, you might not even know this, I'll tell you this. The Vikings actually put a claim in on Schofield last September, but based on waiver priority, he went to the Chargers instead of the Vikings and a few other teams that put in waiver claims on the former Michigan Wolverine. But he is a backup now with the Chargers. The Chargers did re-sign him in March. So you have to wonder if the Chargers would be open to dealing him, but that's just one of many names. The Vikings personnel folks meet every day. They have their own list of names that could potentially be available, whether via a trade or guys that will hit the waiver wire on September 1st. They talk, I'm telling you, daily about so many different names, but Michael Schofield is one name. Pat Elflein remains close, bottom line, because injuries are so all over the place. A guy is making progress one day, has a setback the next. Bottom line, there's still an internal belief, a strong internal belief, that Pat Elflein will be on the field September 9th when the regular season starts against the 49ers. Mike Remmers is back. Mackenzie Alexander underwent an MRI on Sunday. That MRI eliminated any sort of serious injury, but ankle sprains can still be tricky, so no definitive timetable on when Alexander will be back, but I am told it is not a long-term injury. Look for Dalvin Cook to play on Friday night against Seattle. All right, let's bring in Twins general manager Thad Levine, mostly on Stephen Gonsalves' Major League debut on Monday against the White Sox. Thad, always appreciate your time. You're so gracious with your time. At some point, you'll have to demand some sort of monetary payment from me, but I wanted to have you on mostly to review Stephen Gonsalves' Major League debut from Monday night. From your standpoint, what stands out? What would you say about Stephen's Major League debut?
So, I think as we went through the trading deadline and made some decisions there to be more sellers than buyers, we committed at that point to development for the rest of the year. And I think Stephen Gonsalves is a perfect example. We ideally want to win every single night. That certainly is a goal and a focus for us. But we want to use the rest of the remainder of these games to evaluate some of our prospects and determine what they represent for us in 2019 and beyond. And, at the best case scenario, they could represent starting players for us. But then there's also opportunities to contribute in other roles or to contribute as the next line of defense or the line of defense after that. And so, in my opinion, what we saw out of Stephen last night was not so atypical for a Major League debut for a pitcher. When you factor in that Mother Nature was rearing her ugly head last night and impacted the game at least a little bit, I would say. Mm-hmm. I look at it and say, let's give him a body of work to evaluate before we just make any judgments based upon any one outing in the big league level. I think what we know about Stephen is at his best, he's been a real-time competitor throughout his minor league process. By and large, a two-pitch pitcher and fastball and a plus changeup. He does throw a breaking ball, but it's his third offering. And so he needs to have plus command of those two pitches, and if he does, he's going to have success. And last night we didn't necessarily see that. But between Mother Nature and nerves, I'm going to give him the chance to have a couple more starts before I determine whether or not I think he can be a real asset for us in 2019 and beyond.
On his control issues on Monday night, how much of it was him? How much of it was the home plate umpire not doing him any favors?
Well, I think as we see in the big leagues, there you have to, and I guess this is applicable to life, is that the players who have the most success, I think, are able to identify what they can control, and then they dominate what they can control, and then the things that they can't control, they spend as little time, effort, and energy on. And so, that certainly is going to factor into not only last night's game, but every game he pitches. And the question is, can you rise above any sort of adversity? Last night he got the better of him. But I'm confident that he's a better pitcher for having gone through that. And he faced some adversity. Let's see how he comes out the next time, the time after that. He's got a big challenge next time out where he's going to face one of the American League and the Major League's hottest teams in the Oakland Athletics.
Is it safe to say, Thad, that his money pitch is the changeup? And was it surprising to you that he kept that changeup so high? I mean, it was above the belt most of the night, or most of his 1/3, 2/3 innings.
Well, I think when you look at a pitcher who doesn't necessarily have four pitches, you expect that one or two of his pitches are a plus offering, and the changeup, as you just referenced, is exactly that. This is a pitch that he has gotten a lot of swings and misses on in the minor leagues. It plays very well off his fastball. Quite frankly, at times he has pitched it up in the zone. He has been able to, both from a location of the fastball and the changeup, pitch them both up in the zone, which I think makes it that much more difficult for the opposing team to judge one against the other. But that's not a pitch that you're going to get away with indefinitely in the major leagues. You're going to need to be able to locate that pitch, and typically a little bit more down and away than up and away. He got away with it last night, but I'm sure that's something he's going to want to work on.
Has he had control issues going back through his minor league career?
You know, he has been a command guy this year. He has had some battles with the strike zone at times, but some of that also, I think, is as pitchers mature, I think he has a keen knack of understanding which hitters in the opposition's lineup can hurt him the most, and I think he's learned how to be a little bit more delicate with those guys. I think we see that out of guys like Jake Odorizzi this year, too. These are guys who are smart. They understand what their arsenal is, and they understand who is most conducive for them getting out, and I think they don't let the best players on the other team beat them. Sometimes that leads to walks. It's not the end of the world if you can work yourself out of jams.
How long is his leash? I mean, you briefly touched on it. I mean, he'll see the A's this weekend. I mean, is his leash, though? I mean, will he start? You know, if we're talking a month from now, if we're talking on September 21st, is he still in your starting rotation?
I think we're going start to start right now, but he's definitely getting more starts. There are other starting pitching candidates that we're going to want to look at it similar to the way we're looking at Cole Stewart and Stephen Gonsalves right now. You know, you've got guys like Zach Littell, Fernando Romero, Michael Pineda will be back in the discussion here for us shortly. Mm-hmm. You know, so we've had a lot of creative discussions with Garvin Alston and with Paul Molitor around the concept of do we rotate some of these guys through? Do we go to a six-man? Do we piggyback some of these guys? But I think one thing we're going to stay committed to is we're going to try to give as many starts to these guys in between now and the end of the season. Now, will they all fall to Stephen Gonsalves or kind of blended over some of these other guys? Time will tell, but I think that will be our focus for the rest of the year of how we utilize the extra starts that we've generated here.
Are any guys on innings limits, whether it's Gonsalves, Barrios, anybody else?
I think the guy that we're most attentive to right now is Fernando Romero, just because he is getting into a range that he has not achieved before. So I think he, more than most of these guys, is a bona fide candidate for a little bit of more of a limited role, whether that comes in the bullpen or that comes as a piggyback starter. I think we're going to be attentive to his innings, but you bring up a great point. Jose Barrios is pushing back past a innings pitch limit that we haven't seen him reach. He has had a few faltering starts over the last few, and so I think we're going to be attentive to those things. We want to make sure we don't put these guys in harm's way. I think Paul was masterful in using Gonsalves to start to give Jose an additional day off in between his last start and this one, and we're hoping those types of things will pay dividends down the stretch.
Speaking of control issues, was that the hurdle for Cole Stewart in his second time out when he pitched over the weekend?
It was, and I think we got to keep in mind with Cole Stewart, he's made two starts in the major leagues. The first one probably better than the second, but they're both against the same lineup. And as good as you are as a pitcher, that's a lot to overcome to go through a lineup. We've all become so adept at understanding that going through a lineup a third time is challenging. Well, how about trying to do it twice inside of 1 week? I think the advantage may then turn towards the hitters in that instance. So it'll be good for him to get out there, face the Chicago White Sox, face a different lineup. But I think the pitch that he's really developed this year and the one that has separated for him and made him a very functional starter has been that sinker that he's thrown. And for whatever reason, in his last start against Detroit, he felt less comfortable with the sinker. He was relying a little bit more on the four-seam fastball. That's not necessarily his bread and butter. That's not where he's gotten the most success throughout his minor league career. I would expect him to go back to the sinker in the next outing. He's a guy who's going to throw that by and large and have the other opposition just beat the ball into the ground. We saw that in his first outing against Detroit, not in the second outing, and I think he fared better when he had more consistent command of that pitch as well as confidence in it.
On the offensive side, where's this home run surge coming from? I mean, is it as simple as facing the Tigers and the White Sox? But going back to the last handful of games, I mean, you guys keep hitting the ball over the fence.
Well, we have, and we talk about it. Every run is created equal. We would love a few more of those home runs to come with more guys on base, but it's been great to see. I think it's clearly one of the easier ways to score a run in the game. None bigger to me than Joe Mauer's home runs and his brief power surge here. Mm-hmm. What a great response from the fans. It was great to see the curtain call that he earned, and he's earned from not just that home run, but from everything he's done in his career. And I think what the fans saw in that moment, or hopefully that will inspire them to act more in that vein in the future, is just how much our players responded to their reception to Joe and how big a moment that was in that game, how big a moment that was in that series. And I think that was really a huge turning point for us. So not all home runs are created equally. That one was a special one, and I think that really was well received by our fans, and our players definitely loved it.
I agree. That was fun. On Joe, I mean, if he wants to play next year, would you guys like him back?
So, I think what we've said all along and stays consistent on this is we're looking forward to the conversation. We've been very respectful of Joe and his wife, Maddie, and their privacy through this. A lot of players say they want the focus to stay on the team, and then I think behind the scenes they're desirous of a selfish outcome. Joe Mauer, I think our fans will not be surprised to hear he's wanted to keep the focus on the team and has really rebuffed any conversations about him personally. And I think we will be welcoming that conversation come season's end, but staying true to Joe's desires and Maddie's desires, I think that's exactly when we'll be having that conversation, and we look forward to it.
That's fair. Is Joe an underrated leader? What I mean by that, is, a lot of us think, he's so quiet, he doesn't say anything, but the more I hear, the more I sense that Joe doesn't get the credit he deserves for being a leader in that clubhouse.
So my view of leadership in a clubhouse is that all too often we assume the best players are going to be the best leaders, and in practice, I think those two skills are rarely married up. Typically, the best player is not actually the best leader on the team. I think in Joe's case, he is an underrated leader. He's by nature, I think, a little bit more reserved, but he leads by example, but he does more than that. At the end of every game that we win, Joe Mauer has implemented a game ball where he gives out the game balls to the players of the game. And I think one thing that he's done masterfully, and he's done it ever since I've been here, is he makes the 25th player on the roster feel like the 12th most valuable. And so everybody feels closer to the heartbeat of the team. And I think he's done that tremendously. And the way he does that is in that game ball process. He recognizes the guy who pitched the 5th and 6th inning and got us to the back end of the game. He recognizes the guy that moved the runner from second to third and helped us win score that run in the middle of the game that tied it up. Of course, he also acknowledges the guy who maybe hit the 3-run homer to win the game, but it's not singularly focused on that. And I would say that that's unequivocally leadership, and that's something he reinforces every time we win a game, whether it's at home or on the road. And I think Joe is quite a strong leader on this team.
Let you go after 3 quickies. Oliver Drake. I like him. I mean, there's some funkiness there. I mean, I'm wondering how the heck he's on team number 5 this year. I mean, I think there's actually something there.
Well, Oliver Drake is one of our first forays into the guy who passed a lot of scouting interest as well as analytics interest. I think part of the reason he's been on 5 teams is because his surface statistics didn't really match his performance, which is to say there's a lot of underlying metrics that suggested he was a little bit unlucky early in the year. But early in the year, he was carrying a very high ERA and some other stats that jumped off the page negatively. And so I think teams who had shorter leashes on him unfortunately moved on. This is a guy that we'd had our eye on quite a bit. I will say this, it wasn't the first time that we contemplated putting a waiver claim in on him that we got him, but we did get him in this last endeavor, and I give our analytics guys and our scouts a lot of credit. It's a very unique profile. He pitches straight over the top, which is not a release point most hitters are used to seeing, and he's got a really advanced split-finger fastball, which is, once again, not a pitch that a lot of hitters see. So I think we're intrigued to see how it looks when he sees hitters a second and third time, which we will be seeing, which he will have to do come September. But we may have just found something that could really factor in nicely for us in 2019.
We saw some more August trades today. Daniel Murphy to the Cubs, Matt Adams to the Cardinals. Do you anticipate still being active here in the month of August? Anything close on your guys' front?
Well, it always takes another team to value your players at the championship level, and we certainly have had a number of teams who have inquired about our players that then ended up netting 6 distinct trades, and that's significant.
I would say so. That's a lot.
In my estimation, we do have some players on this team who similarly may be in positions that was our criteria for making deals, guys who may be in expiring deals who we think could help championship caliber clubs win. But, it's going to be up to them to determine that. And we've had some dialogue. I expect we'll have more as we get closer to August 31st, because as our fans may know, any player who's in an organization as of midnight of August 31st is eligible to play in the playoffs. So that's kind of a secondary trade deadline. We expect that we're going to be receiving some calls in between now and then.
Lastly, how much internal planning is going on already for this winter's free agent class? Like, are you breaking down video of free agents? Are others breaking down video? Do you have scouts out watching free agents? How does that work?
Well, I think as you're playing games in August, turn September, you're hopeful that you are preparing for the playoffs. But if you're not in a position to prepare for the playoffs, in my humble opinion, you got to be preparing for the off season. And that month of time where other teams are playing the playoffs, ideally you're getting a leg up on them and beating them in terms of off-season planning. And so we've already started that exercise. Brad Sile, who heads up our pro scouting department, has already set up a meeting to bring our pro scouts in here next week so that we can start evaluating the free agent class, potential trade targets, really management of our 40-man roster. So all those things are underway right now. So we plan that we're not going to just be sitting back and watching the playoffs in the event that we're not in it. We're going to be game planning for 2019 and trying to strategize how best we can position this team to be as competitive as possible in 2019 and beyond.
Great stuff as always. Hopefully we'll see you. Are you going to get to the State Fair this year?
I would love to. I'd love to. I think the kids had a blast last time they were there. It's rare that you get a 2.5-pound turkey leg, so I'm hoping to get out there and sink my teeth into one.
All right, well, if you're out there, hopefully we'll connect. Thank you as always, Thad.
Thanks, Darren.
Twins General Manager Thad Levine. I was at the ballpark on Monday pregame. I caught up with Joaquin Gonsalves and Suzanne Gonsalves, Stephen Gonsalves' mom and dad. Let me play back those conversations. We'll start with mom. That will transition into dad. It is good to know that Stephen will get another start. He'll start this weekend at Target Field against the A's, but it is start to start because, as Thad said, Zach Littell, Michael Pineda, they do want to get a look at some other guys, Fernando Romero. So those are three guys that will make starts before the year is over. As he said, Romero is on an innings limit, so you figure Romero will get a start here in the very near future. But we know, bottom line, that Gonsalves will get a start this weekend, and we'll go from there. So anyway, here's my conversation with Suzanne Gonsalves and Joaquin Gonsalves. We'll start with Mom Suzanne. Mrs. Gonsalves, take us to the moment where your phone rang or your text message dinged when you found out that Stephen was getting the call up.
It was just the other night. It was late, actually, after watching the Twins game. We were watching Cole pitch, and he called, and he did a FaceTime. My husband wasn't home, so when I picked up the phone, he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Just hanging out, doing a little work." And he said, "Well, maybe you better get online and start shopping for some airline tickets." And I said, "Funny thing, honey, look." And I put his face up to the computer, and I said, "I already am." So I just heard he'd called his grandmother and called his dad, and so I'd heard the news, so thrilled.
And you even had the feeling, even going back a number of days, weeks, that the time was coming.
Absolutely, we knew. That's what we said. It wasn't going to be if, it was just when.
How will he handle the stage tonight? I mean, is he a cool customer?
He's a very mellow kid. Yeah, always been. Really easygoing, can relax himself quickly and easily. So, yeah, I think he's up for it. Very, very excited. Definitely the nerves are getting to all of us. But I think he's, once he gets through his first inning, I think he'll be good.
When did you realize that okay, my son is special, that he has a chance to go far in this game?
I realized he was special probably when he was born. That kid, he's looks like a 3-month-old after I had him. He was so large, 9'9", but he was an athlete from the get-go. So loved to play. But I remember when he was 8 and he was recruited by some dads for an older team. I could see quickly how quickly he adjusted, and he played up for many years. So it was early on that we knew it. He played all the sports, so there was plenty of things that we saw he was good at. But baseball was definitely his love. Fits his personality for sure.
Is he a great kid? I mean, heck, is he a better pitcher or a better person?
Definitely a better person. I mean, he's a great guy, a great relationship guy, really good friendships. He's getting married next year to a wonderful girl that he met on the road here. But family definitely first for him. So it's a treasure to have him. I have just the two, one of each, and honestly, they're both fantastic. But he is, just a good kid. Happy to have his family here. He's got a lot of family. His grandparents and grandmothers here with him tonight. His lots of cousins and aunts and really good friends. His sister, his fiance. So we're having some fun, but he's a good kid. Great character. Has always gotten those character awards.
I was talking to your husband. I mean, my understanding is your daughter was a college soccer player, recently graduated college. Now you've got your son making his major league debut. I mean, as a parent, you have to be on cloud 9.
Pretty good. Really nice. See, they're both doing so well. They're both, are in their early 20s, obviously, but yeah, really doing well. Really embracing life and going with it. But yeah, absolutely very proud.
As we get to know Stephen, what would surprise us about Stephen?
What would you surprise you? I mean, probably that he is such a fierce competitor. He's so chill all the time. He's got such an easy-going, nice personality, but he's got just that fire in his belly. Loves to compete, loves to win. Athletic family man. California kid at heart. Will always go back to California, I think, so not a surprise. He's an ocean kid for sure. Fishing all the time. That's his love, besides playing the video games with his buddy. So I think that's all over.
What kind of mom are you in the stands? I mean, tonight as you're up 20 rows up here from home plate, I mean, when he gets that first strikeout, are you going to jump up and cheer, or do you keep everything inside?
I hold it more inside, yeah. No, I'm definitely more like him personality-wise, just pretty calm. So have always been the one sitting behind watching him and, definitely cheering him on, but not screaming and not being too dramatic at all. So I've definitely had the nerves the past couple of days for sure, more than ever. No doubt about that, but no, I'll just be thrilled. It'll be a huge relief when it happens. Dad may be pacing a little bit, but I'll be sitting.
He's close to Mitch Garver. How cool is it that he gets to throw to Mitch tonight?
To my whole family. When we saw the lineup posted today, we were all celebrating that it was Mitch because, they've been good buddies since the beginning. Mitch was one of the first kids that I met on his team, and kids, he's a man, but he was so warm and welcoming to Stephen, really took him under his wing when they were in initial spring training together. We came out and just a wonderful, wonderful man. So really great brother, great friend to him. So I'm thrilled that he's back there because I think he's going to keep him calm.
How about just Cole Stewart? I mean, Cole goes a few picks before Stephen. They signed, if I'm not mistaken, on the same day here at Target Field, and then they make their Major League debuts just days apart.
It's been awesome. Again, that obviously says they're continuing to stay on that same path, and I think keep pushing each other. So I think that's been definitely something Stephen's aspired to, is to get there, before or with him. And so here they are, that close. So that's pretty awesome.
Joaquin, take us through this journey. I mean, what's it been like from your standpoint? I mean, can you picture back years ago taking Stephen to practice early in the morning, late at night, just the journey to get to this very point?
Yeah, it's funny because in the very beginning, when he was, single digits, 7, 8, I swore I'm never going to pay for a travel ball or, let's play Little League, let's play whatever, and let's go. And, I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew he was going to be tall, but never noticed really lefty tall, never clicked with me. And then he started playing and showed some ability and, was asked to do travel ball. And I'm like, all right. Well, finally I broke down and I gave him a lesson. In fact, we got a text from that. He's a junior college coach at Palomar College, and he texted me, hey, good, but yeah, first lesson. Then he kept doing well, and he was always had to play. He had one of those birthdays where he was in between. And so he always played up, and he held his own and kept moving along and kept progressing. And then it's like, I think it was till maybe in his 12, 13, 14, that age when I'm like, okay, he's really got talent. So, yeah, then I knew, and then we were starting to get some interest when he started doing the travel circuit. And then it's like, it's crazy. But, yeah, it took a while. It wasn't right off the bat.
And speaking of taking a while, I mean, he goes in the 4th round in the 2013 draft. I mean, does that seem like it was just yesterday, or does that seem like it's been forever ago to get to this point to be making his Major League debut?
It's the first 3-4 years was quick. It's just like, getting a routine. He was doing well at each level, coming home, working hard, working out during the off season, then going and just progressing. And then this year kind of felt like, okay, I could, I was watching the MILB on MILB. I watch all the games. It's like, okay, let's move on. I wasn't as nervous. It was fun to watch, but it's like, okay, let's get to the next level. So in the beginning, very long, but it quickened up this last year. Couldn't wait.
What's it been like? I mean, am I right that your daughter was a college soccer player,
yes,
recently graduated? Now you've got Stephen making his Major League debut. I mean, all these life accomplishments all happening in a small time frame. I mean, it has to make a parent just, on cloud 9.
It's very exciting. It's making me kind of feel old. But it's funny, yes. My daughter Renee had a great soccer career. Now she's moved on. She's her own person. She got a job, just graduated, got a job on her own, living in Santa Barbara. It's great. And I'm glad she got to come out and participate in this. It's awesome.
And then you think about, just everything. The weight. Stephen could have been called up 2-3 months ago based on merit, based on the numbers he was putting up. So what's it been like the last couple months? I saw his last 11 starts, an ERA of like 1.27. This has been a long time coming, just even going back the last couple months, waiting for this moment to occur.
Yeah, I think we know it. We've seen it. I have all the faith in him. His mom and I have great faith in him. We couldn't wait till it happened. I mean, I think he's a little underrated because he doesn't throw 96, 97, whatever. But he's got a pitcher's mentality. I like the way he pitches, low 90s, but he's worked hard on his off-speed stuff, and I think that'll show. He's a pitcher. He's not a thrower. And, maybe it takes longer for them to notice, people to notice that now, but he's proven it at every level, and hopefully it continues today.
Is my little birdie correct that you thought he was actually a better hitter / outfielder in high school?
Yeah. He was. If I was a better father and had better video capabilities and videoed every game, he was an outstanding center fielder, and he could rake, he can hit, and I think when he played in USA baseball, was on the 18U team, and I think he kind of got pigeonholed as a pitcher. They saw a tall lefty, and actually one game I was at a practice in North Carolina when he was trying out for the team, and he was out shagging, and someone hit one, and he ran from center to right and stole a home run off the wall. And everyone started clapping, and the coaches finally went, oh, and then he got to make a start in the outfield. So, yeah, there was one or two teams that during the draft process that thought of him as pitcher / player, position player. But yeah, it was a tough transition for my wife and I to see him as to wait every 5 days to watch him play instead of every day. But yeah, he was really good. I can't wait till he plays. Hopefully he sticks up here and gets to play National League team.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool if we can see him, swing the bat.
I think it'll come back.
Yeah, now, is he a cool customer? I mean, will this stage not be too big for him?
At every level I've seen him, he's been put in a few positions where he's like USA in the games in Seoul, where he played for the medal games and pitched 2 games. So and at the perfect game in San Diego he did. So he's been in a couple big stages. This is a little bigger, obviously, but I think so. Hopefully, after the first couple outs, he'll calm right down.
Joaquin, are you one that's emotional? I mean, can you picture 2 hours from now being up in the stands? Whenever inevitably he gets that first strikeout or first big moment tonight, can you picture what the emotions are going to be going through you?
I mean, yeah, multiple. Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to be cool and calm this whole day and this whole last 2 days, but the closer it gets, the more I feel it. I mean, I'm not super emotional. I mean, I am a little bit, but I don't show it a whole lot. It's going to be a little more emotional because my dad passed away 3 years ago, and it was his number one fan. My dad took him to everything, and he was, in fact, on his glove, I think it was in AA or something, he had his name on there and dedicated that season to him, and ended up winning Twins Minor League Pitcher of the Year. And we got to come here to this beautiful stadium for the Diamonds Awards. It was great, and I think he in his speech said that about dedicated to his grandfather. So yeah, a little bit of that. I mean, my dad used to sit there, and when he'd come home from his season, hey, so when are you going to get there? When are you going to get there? I mean, and he was 86 at the time, and he's like, I don't know, 2 years? I don't think so. Yeah, Stephen's been carrying that with him, and he's been working really hard. So I think my dad would be happy. So a little emotional that way, but he's in a better place, and I know he'll be watching and hopefully he'll be out on the mound with him.
He's got the best seat in the house.
Absolutely.
Let's learn about Zack Annexstad, the Gophers football starting quarterback. True freshman walk-on on paper. He had multiple Power 5 offers. Dr. Grant Norland from Inspired Athletics and the Quarterback Institute in Plymouth has worked with Zack for a number of years. You can tell us the specific background. Grant has also worked with Max Williams of the Baltimore Ravens, a number of former Gophers. He is well known in the metropolitan area for helping develop football players, but he specifically has lots of intel, good intel, on Zack Annexstad. So let's talk to Grant. We won't be able to talk to Zack until after he plays in a game. That is school policy. Many teams have that policy where true freshmen, until you actually play in a game, you are off limits to the media. So until Annexstad plays on Thursday, August 30th against New Mexico State. Post-game, we won't be able to talk to Zach. I know his mom and dad have told some individuals. I tried to land an interview with mom and dad. I was told that they don't want to do anything right now either, so we're trying to find some people that know Zach, so Grant definitely qualifies as one of those individuals. So we'll get to Grant in just a second, Dr. Norland. But let me tell you about Vivid Seats, Vikings Seahawks, Friday night, U.S. Bank Stadium. Vivid Seats is your spot to track down Vikings tickets, or September 9th against the 49ers, Week 3 against Buffalo, Denny Green, the late Denny Green, going into the Ring of Honor. Use Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is an online event ticket marketplace dedicated to providing fans of live entertainment with experiences that last a lifetime. So, yes, think about that. The Vikings should have a special season. It should be a double-digit win season. Maybe not 13 like last year, but they certainly appear to have a playoff roster, a Super Bowl-ready roster. So we'll see if they can meet those expectations. But if you haven't been to U.S. Bank Stadium, you'll want to go because the potential is there that this could be a very special year. And if you've been to U.S. Bank Stadium, you know how much fun a Vikings game can be. Scoop listeners should go to vividseats.com or download the app and enter promo code SCOOP for 10% off your first ticket order. New customers only. That offer is valid through the end of August. So vividseats.com or download the Vivid Seats app. You get 10% off your first order if you're a first-time buyer. So Vikings Seahawks tickets, Vikings 49ers, Vikings Bills, Vikings Saints, any number of Vikings games throughout the season. Take advantage of this opportunity before August is done. Vividseats.com for your Vikings seats.
Love a good deal? Sail into the season at Banana Republic Factory's Mega Labor Day Sale. Entire store 50 to 70% off. Dresses from $19.99, polos from $14.99. It's insane. Grab your friends. Banana Republic Factory. See you there.
All right, let's get to Dr. Grant Norland. Grant, I touched on it in the intro, bringing you into the conversation, your relationship with Zack Annexstad. Why don't you lay out for the listeners just how far back you and Zach go?
Well, Zach started coming up to see us back when we were in our office in Eden Prairie. That was back when he was in 8th grade, so that would have been almost 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Now. Yeah, he started off with us about when we were 1 year into our place there, and it was just a couple of months ago he was in, and we were watching some of the videos from back when he was in 8th grade, just comparing, just having some good laughs about that, because he's really come a long way since then, obviously.
Well, expound on that. How far has he come from going back, 6 years or so?
Well, he's matured a lot, both physically and mentally. He's really become a student of the game, and he's tightened a lot of things up mechanically. Throws a great ball, obviously, and those are some of the things that he's really worked on over the last 5 and 6 years. But he's really just been a student of the game, and just really been dedicated to developing his craft, which has been very, very cool to watch.
I suppose it helps that Dad's a former Gopher, right? Had a cup of coffee in the NFL. So, when you've got a dad that's got that sort of background, it probably helped push Zach along.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And his dad's a great guy. He's come to a lot of his sessions before, and he's obviously having that experience is helpful for a guy coming up. He can speak from experience and kind of give him the ins and outs of what it's like to play at that level, and that can be invaluable to a guy, especially in Zach's position. He's coming in as a true freshman and not necessarily knowing what to expect. That's certainly invaluable.
Was it soon after, Grant, after you connected with him? 8th grade, 9th grade, maybe when he started to get snaps at the varsity level for Mankato West, that you realized, okay, he has a chance to be pretty special?
Well, yeah, from the get-go, he was always a bigger kid. He had a pretty big frame. He threw a great ball. And, when you put those tools together, if you can get things right upstairs, anything can happen. So you really saw those raw tools from the get-go, and he just continued to develop and really saw the mental side kick in with it and really, really developed to a high level, obviously. And then going down to IMG, he flourished there, and I know he had some quarterback battles down there and came out and got quite a bit of playing time. And obviously there's a lot of stiff competition down there, and he did really well. And now it's great to see him up with the Gophers.
From your sense, how much does he embrace that competition? You're right. Junior year at IMG, it was, a Texas A&M kid was the starter, but then senior year it was a Miami commit. I think the kid eventually, did he end up at Rutgers? It doesn't matter, but he beat out a kid. I mean, he wasn't the guy. I mean, he's always sort of been at the bottom, but he's climbed his way up. Then he comes to campus in January. I mean, a lot of us thought Vic Viramontes, Tanner Morgan. I mean, Zack Annexstad wasn't on our radar. And then, once spring ball started, he's out there. He's performing at a high level. Then we're like, okay. Then the spring game happens. Then we're like, okay, he definitely has a shot. But then even so, I thought, you know what? Tanner Morgan's been here for a year. Tanner might have the leg up. But all Zack does is win these competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best kind of quarterback, really, to be honest with you, is a guy who's a quiet, fierce competitor, and I think that's Zack. He's not the guy that's going to be a super big rah-rah, boisterous type of guy, but he's quiet, kind of keeps it to himself, but underneath that, he is a very fierce competitor, and I think that's kind of a recipe for a really good quarterback. You see a lot of guys that succeed at a high level, they kind of have that quiet competitiveness to them. And he's got a very high level of confidence, which is good. You can walk a fine line between being confident and arrogant, and he doesn't cross that line, but he's very confident in what he does, and I think he's got a good recipe to do a lot of good things as a QB at this level.
That fierce competitiveness, does that help with his leadership qualities? I mean, you think about it, true freshman. You think about like running back Rodney Smith. He's been here 5 years. You think about others on the offense. Jared Weiler, center, senior, right? Donnell Green, tackle, senior. I mean, these guys are 4 or 5 years older than Zack, yet he needs to be a leader of that offense. But that fierce competitiveness, will that help him bridge that gap with the age, difference when it comes to some of those other guys on offense and him needing to lead that offense?
No doubt. Absolutely. He doesn't have to be a guy that's going to come in there and be the rah-rah guy and be the big-time leader of all these guys, but when they see that competitiveness in him, they're going to latch on to that, and they'll respond to that. I've seen that happen before in a lot of different places where a young guy comes in and does really well, and they don't necessarily have to be that vocal leader necessarily, but they're going to come in, they do their job. The guys will pick up on that quickly, I think, and respond to it.
Give us a little bit more of a scouting report on Zack. I mean, dual threat. I mean, he can do it with the arm and with the legs.
Yeah, I would say he's probably a little bit more of a pocket passer. He is a good athlete, and he can certainly make plays with his feet when he needs to. I think he's going to make more plays with his head and his arm.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, you think about Tyler Johnson. I mean, they have some wide receivers. I mean, Tyler's the one that's produced in games, but, whether it's Omar Douglas's kid, Demetrius, who got hurt last year, but there's a ton of talent there. This Chris Altman-Bell kid, the Rashad Bateman kid who got an offer late from Georgia, who should play as a true freshman. I mean, it seems like Zack should have a number of options. I know they like the young tight end Paulson. I mean, he should have a number of options to be able to throw the ball. I mean, and heck, you think about it, Grant. I mean, you follow the Gophers close enough. I mean, they just didn't have any success whatsoever throwing the ball last year, unfortunately. So it can only get better in my mind when it comes to their air attack.
Oh, yeah, they certainly have weapons out there. And what I can't wait to see is when he completes his first pass to his brother. That's got to be coming, right?
Yeah.
It's so cool to see him get a scholarship in the same week that, Zack got named the starter. And it'd be really cool to see those two connect on a pass sometime. And I can't wait to see that happen. And I know they've got a lot of other weapons, too. And it's going to be an exciting season for them to see what happens. Obviously he's, being a true freshman coming in, he'll take a lump or two here or there, but, if he sticks with it, and I know he will, I think he's going to be very successful.
Can you speak to the level of competition he saw at IMG Academy? I mean, for lack of a better comparison, I mean, is IMG Academy for football in many ways like Shattuck St. Mary's for hockey, or Oak Hill Academy for basketball, even though I know IMG has basketball, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's an accurate comparison. I mean, these guys are traveling all over the country playing games against the top competition at the high school level all over the country. So it's definitely a very, very high level. They're playing against a bunch of their peers are going to be, Division I players, and most of their teammates go to Division I schools. And so been around that level, and I think that's going to help him coming into this situation that he's going to be in now, is that he's played with guys that are going to be playing at this level already for the last 2 years. And so getting accustomed to that, it's maybe not going to be quite as big of a jump going from high school to college as it is for say a guy from a 2A school that's not used to quite that speed of play. It'll be maybe just a little bit less of an adjustment for him on that front.
One final point for Dr. Grant Norland from the Quarterback Institute and Inspired Athletics in the West Metro. He has worked with Zack Annexstad going back to when Zack was in the 8th grade. How hard was it for Zack to be a Gopher, to turn down Power 5 offers? I mean, we know eventually he'll be on scholarship here, but he had an opportunity to be on scholarship right away where? Illinois, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. Am I leaving out a school or two? I mean, he had opportunities right away.
I can't remember all of them, to be honest. I think there was 4 or 5 in there.
Yeah, Rutgers maybe.
Yeah, he had opportunities, but like he's always said, this is his home state. This is where he's from. His brother goes here. I think he really feels at home here. I think deep down, this is where he always wanted to be. At least that's the impression I got. And so when he had the opportunity, he was going to take it. And like you said, he's that quiet competitor that he's got a challenge in front of him. He's going to attack it. And, here he saw an opportunity to maybe come in and make some noise and get to play, and he took advantage of it.
And I'll leave you with this. I mean, Kirk Shiraka's offense, P.J. Fleck, they developed a really good quarterback at Western Michigan. They started a redshirt freshman there at Western Michigan, and the kid set all sorts of school records. From what you know, does Zach really like Kirk Shiraka's offense, his fit in that offense?
To be honest with you, I haven't spoken with him too much about the X's and O's of their system up to this point. But, I'm sure he's going to do well in any system that he's in. And I'm sure that's going to be a high-flying offense, no doubt, with the energy that Coach Fleck brings to the equation. And I think it's going to be a fun season to watch him take that on.
So you guys, when you're working with him, and maybe more so going back the last handful of years, maybe not necessarily once he stepped foot on campus, it was more just individual work, tweaking his delivery, things like that?
Yeah, well, we did a lot of, preseason strength and conditioning work with him, working on mechanics, footwork, all kinds of different things, basically everything that goes into playing the position. And, just to get him ready for that level. And, we've worked with him, quite a bit last year and then a little bit here and there through this last season. Obviously he was back and forth to Florida and that kind of thing, but on holidays and when he had downtime, he was in here working. And that's the thing about him is he hardly took any time off. The kid just always wants to be working, which I think is a recipe for success.
Yeah, if you have the work ethic, absolutely, that is a recipe for success. Dr. Grant Norland, Grant, thank you so much, and I'll certainly be in touch.
You bet. Thanks, Dewey. Good talking with you.
I touched on a couple guys there in the conversation with Grant Norland, Dr. Grant Norland. I have heard good things about Paulson, the tight end, certainly Ottman Bell, Bateman, and on defense, 2 guys, household names, at least locally and among Gophers fans. But I hear that Kamal Martin of Burnsville and Blake Cashman of Eden Prairie are having phenomenal training camps. In fact, I talked to Blake the other day about his season goals. He has lofty goals. He wants over 100 tackles. He thinks he can get to over 10 sacks and even sprinkle in at least a couple interceptions. Blake Cashman, former walk-on, now one of the Gophers' best defensive players out of Eden Prairie High School. I'll wrap it up with a handful of notes, and we'll call it Scoop Podcast episode 168. On episode 169, I'll bring a conversation to you with Peter Udoybach, who's a Gophers football commit from Cretin-Derham Hall High School. He's among their class of 2019. On the Wolves front, there was the report from Sportando. They quoted Alexi Shved's agent. He did some sort of podcast, some sort of media interview in Europe, quoted the agent for Shved saying the Timberwolves were among teams to make Shved an offer. He ultimately signed with a team overseas. He is not coming back to the NBA, but the agent said he had multiple NBA offers, including from the Wolves. Well, poking around a little bit, my sense is the Wolves reached out on Shved. I'm not quite sure that information is accurate, though, that the Wolves made him a full-fledged offer. Now, they reached out on 35 to 40 to 50 free agents, July 1st and onward, and ultimately end up signing who? Anthony Tolliver, James Nunnally, C.J. Williams to a 2-way deal. They ultimately will add one more free agent. Some agents believe as soon as New York waives and stretches Joakim Noah, that Noah will end up with the Wolves. Some other agents are led to believe that the Wolves are still looking to add a shooter, but there's nothing new on the Wolves and Nick Young. Brandon Paul is a name that they chased last year. He ended up signing with the Spurs, but he is still available on the free agent market. Also, no Wolves interest in Sean Kilpatrick as of now. So we'll wait and see what the Wolves do. Don't be surprised, though, if they don't get to 15 contracts, but they're at 13 contracts right now, excluding the two-way deals with the rookie from Rhode Island and C.J. Williams. Look for them to get to 14 contracts. Also, Marcus George's Hunt, Jimmy Butler's close friend, worked out last week with Denver, but it doesn't appear as if the Wolves right now have interest in retaining his services. Some other hoops notes in the next couple days. Zeke Nnaji of Hopkins begins his tour of Indiana, Purdue, Illinois. He'll eventually get to UCLA and Arizona, all unofficial visits before the month of August is over. I went over the entire list. There's more than that on a recent Scoop podcast. Zeke Nnaji, who the Gophers want badly, Wisconsin wants badly, picked up that Kansas offer in the last week and a half. North Carolina is now reaching out. Kentucky is now reaching out. Miami is now reaching out, so we'll wait and see if any of those three schools offer. Regardless, Zeke Nnaji of Hopkins has over 20 offers, 20 major offers, Power 6 conference offers. So he will have his pick of whatever school he wants to go to, one of the 40 to 50 best players in the country in the class of 2019. One of the best players in the class of 2020, Jalen Suggs of Minnehaha Academy, expected to spend some time at the Gophers' new facility either before this week is over or next week. I know that they've been in touch, the family, with Gophers assistant Rob Jeter. So I know they will connect in person with Rob Jeter in the very near future. David Roddy, 2019 Breck High School. Great quarterback, by the way. Has an opportunity to play college football if he wants. But his basketball offer list is growing seemingly by the week. The Gophers recently hopped in on David. He is looking to take an official visit to the Gophers sometime in mid-September. By the way, the Gophers men's basketball Big Ten schedule came out. Women's too on Tuesday. Some of the headlines, they open up on December 2nd at Ohio State. Their home opener for the Big Ten schedule is Wednesday, December 5th against Nebraska. Yes, they finally get Wisconsin twice again. Finally, I say. But heck, a one-year break from playing the Badgers twice is ridiculous. The Gophers and the Badgers should play twice every Big Ten season in basketball. It was ludicrous last year that they did not. So anyway, they travel to Wisconsin on Thursday, January 3rd. And they actually have a bye weekend that weekend. They don't play the weekend of January 5th. Then the Badgers come to the barn. Brad Davison, Nate Reavers, and company come to the barn on Wednesday, February 6th. I have some other notes, but I can save those. Nothing that's overly important. We appreciate Thad Levine. He was open and great with his time, as always. Fun conversations with Stephen Gonsalves, his parents, and it's nice to get to know Zack Annexstad from somebody that has worked with him since Annexstad was in the 8th grade. He went to Mankato West High School as a freshman and sophomore, then went to IMG Academy his junior and senior years. He is now a true freshman for the Gophers, got to campus in January, participated in spring practice, and he will start the Gophers opener Thursday night, August 30th, against New Mexico State. Tickets are available. I'm told there's at least 4 figures of tickets still available. So if you're interested in attending, seeing Zack Annexstad's collegiate debut, tickets are there to be had. We thank Vivid Seats, vividseats.com, for your Vikings tickets. We thank Blue Chew, bluechew.com. It's comparable to Viagra and Cialis. If you need some help in the bedroom, Blue Chew is there to help you out. Check out bluechew.com, the color blue, BLUE, bluechew.com for more information. That does it for Scoop Podcast episode 168. We'll be back when time allows with episode 169. Have a great one.
This is Stephanie March, food editor of Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, and fellow foodies, it's the most wonderful time of the year, the Minnesota State Fair. And not only are foods on a stick, I'm bringing you a podcast on a stick. It's a show released daily during the run of the fair, covering the fair's best of the best, the must-eats, the new foods, the old favorites, plus events, hidden gems, and the shows you can't miss. We're going to cover it all. Just listen to Podcasts on a Stick. Find episodes on the Podcast One app or wherever you find your podcasts.
You know, why can a car park itself, but I still have to drive across town to take a test drive?
Why can I get approved for a mortgage at lightning speed, but buying a new car takes an entire day?
How can an at-home test kit reveal my entire ancestry for the past millennium, but I can't see the price of a new car until I purchase it?
At Hyundai, we've wondered those things too. So we're making it all possible with our all-new program called Shopper Assurance. With flexible test drives that come to you, transparent pricing for convenience, streamlined purchase for efficiency, and even a 3-day worry-free exchange, the future of car buying is now available in the present. Car buying made easier. It's now possible. Introducing Hyundai Shopper Assurance. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to see how it works. Test drive subject to dealer personnel and vehicle availability. Under the 3-day worry-free exchange, customers who buy or lease a new vehicle from participating dealers may exchange it for another new Hyundai within 3 days. Mileage and vehicle condition restrictions apply.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis was there to greet the McCain family last night as Senator and war hero John McCain's body was flown to a military base outside Washington. Today, McCain's body will lie in state under the Capitol Rotunda. AP Washington correspondent Sagar Magani.
After a memorial service yesterday in his adopted home of Arizona, a military jet flew McCain's body east to Joint Base Andrews, where he was greeted with an armed forces tribute. He's now lying in state at the U.S. Capitol, where he's served for so many years, and where the public will be allowed to file in on what's expected to be a stormy day here in Washington. McCain will be buried Sunday.
Ariana Grande and Stevie Wonder will sing, and former President Clinton will speak at Aretha Franklin's funeral today in Detroit. But organizers promise this will be a service, not a show. An American man's pleaded not guilty to assault in Uganda after video footage showed him punching a hotel worker. I'm Rita Foley.